May the words of my mouth and the meditation of all our hearts be pleasing to you, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. So have you ever noticed that the fourth Sunday of Advent always feels a little different from the other weeks of Advent? There's still the waiting, but now the waiting weighs a little bit heavier. The candles are nearly lit, the story almost complete. And yet, we're not there yet. This Sunday places us on the threshold. We stand with one foot in the longing and the waiting of Advent, and the other foot is stepping into hope, stepping into the arrival. Can you feel it? We stand right at the edge of the mystery. And into this space, the gospel does something surprisingly simple. It gives us a name. Matthew tells us that the child who is coming will be called Emmanuel, which means God with us. Before we are told what the child will do, before the angels and the shepherds appear, before the manger is filled, God is named. And the name itself is the promise. Emmanuel. There is a story sometimes told from the pulpit about a small child who, after being tucked into bed, begins to cry out in the dark. A parent comes in, asks, "What's wrong?" Child says, "I'm scared." The parent tries to reassure the child the ways adults often do by saying, "There's nothing to fear. God is with you." But the child pauses and then says very quietly, "I don't want God without skin on." And so the parent sits down at the edge of the bed. They stayed. They held the child's hand. They were there. They were present to the child. And I think this simple story captures the heart of Advent. When the night feels long, when fear is real, when the future is very uncertain, we don't want explanations. We don't want reassurances that skip over our fear. We want presence. We want nearness. We want someone to stay with us. Advent doesn't deny the darkness. It doesn't rush past the uncertainty that we feel. Advent knows that the world is still broken in many places, and that we are too. And in that honesty, Advent teaches us what to hope for. Not a God that observes us from a distance, not a God shouting from heaven, not a God reduced to an idea or a concept, but a God who comes close, a God that draws close to enough to be present to us. That's what Emmanuel means. St. Francis of Assisi understood this when he gathered the people from a small town called Greco on Christmas Eve in 1223. Instead of building a big display, he did something very simple, but something unusual. He placed the manger in a cave. He filled it with hay. He brought in an ox and a donkey. He let the night remain cold. Francis was not trying to create something decorative. He was trying to create something that was true. Francis wanted people to experience what Emmanuel means. Not some doctrine or to profess, but as a reality that they could feel and see. Francis knew what the child in the dark knew. When we are afraid, when life feels fragile, when the future is uncertain and unclear to us, we don't want God explained. We want God to be present. We want God with us. The Creccio was Francis's way of proclaiming this Emmanuel. For Francis, God chooses nearness over distance. God does not wait until the world is ready. God enters the world as it is, cold, uncertain, broken, and unfinished. So this Sunday leaves us right here, standing in that unfinished place, standing in the threshold, between waiting and arrival, between our longing and our hope. The manger is not filled yet. The child is not yet born. The story has not reached its turning point. And yet, the name has already been spoken into this darkness. Emmanuel. God with us before we understand. God with us in our fear. God in us while the waiting continues. God with us in the hospital and our terminal illness. God with us in the rehab center and the nursing home. God with us in the food pantry line. God with us in the immigration detention center. God with us in the 12-step program. God with us in the LGBTQ center. God with us in all the unfinished and broken places of our lives. This is what makes this Sunday both hopeful and challenging. That we are asked to wait without rushing, trust without seeing, to hope without pretending that everything is fine. We are asked to believe that God is already near, even when the signs are subtle and the answers are very incomplete, even when we are just hoping for just a little glimpse, while our vision is still very unclear. And the promise of Emmanuel is just that. God does not wait for us to be ready. God comes close anyway. Emmanuel. This is the bridge between this Sunday and Christmas. Today, we hear it as a promise. In just a few days, we'll see it made flesh. Today, we name our longing, and on Christmas, God answers it. The child in the dark was right. Francis was right too. We do not want God without skin on it. And the good news of Advent is that God hears that prayer. God chooses nearness over distance, vulnerability over power, presence over some abstract concept. So we wait. We wait not with denial or fear, but we hope grounded in this promise. Emmanuel is coming. And God will no longer be without skin on. So I wonder today, when Christmas comes, when Emmanuel arrives, what will our response be? Will we offer Emmanuel the invitation that we have been hoping for? The invitation to come in?